All right. First off, let me just get over it, and we can cut this part out, whatever. I am in awe of you. I have so much respect for what you do. So I'm a little nervous, but I'll get over that pretty quickly. I promise. I promise.
Now let's get over this part. You are one of the defining, like as a kid watching television, saying, I want to do comedy. I want to be in that business. Sam Malone was one of my like heroes as a kid.
Wow.
So like, it was like, and me and my mom watched Cheer. I mean, so this for me, like, and I don't know how you'll feel about this, but like, I'm excited to like, I want to call my mom at some point and be like, "Wah!" And the only time I've ever had that was Alan Alda. So I don't know if that makes you feel good or
really good.
Yeah, my God. I did an Alan Alda's podcast and I was like, I have to let my mom know that talk to Alan Alda. So
one of my heroes.
Yeah. So like in that era of television, yeah, you're the best. And then The Good Place, it's just like, and that was like me and my wife bonded over there. It's just, yeah. So
are your kids old enough for The Good Place or not yet?
My oldest is about to turn 13, and I just had the thought recently of like, yeah, you're about, I think she watched Ted Lasso. I feel like that's a good segue into The Good Place.
Yeah, definitely.
Ted Lasso keeps her pretty, but yeah. A part of who I am in this business and how I am is because of like watching so much Ted Danson as a kid. So,
well, first off, thank you for just telling me that because my blood pressure just went down a couple notches, and I just like, oh, he complimented me. I'm all right. I'll be fine.
They told me they compliment him right away, even if you don't mean it. And I was like, okay. I just Googled him.
I am the type of person that asks for a compliment, gets it, and chooses to believe it, even though I forced them to say it. Yeah, that works for me.
That's fine. That's fine.
I don't know. My wife, Mary Steenburgen, I don't know if you know who she is, but...
Did he just do that to me, everybody back here? My wife, Mary Steenburgen. I don't know if you know who that is. I've read.
Okay.
In the tabloids.
Well, you
guys are always in the tabloids.
Yes, we are.
You guys are always
doing something horrible.
Kicked out of a restaurant or starting a fight. Yeah, I followed you on page 6 in PerezHilton.com.
Anyway, as I was leaving, she said, please give him my respect. Huge amount of respect. But then he said, he's a lovely, lovely man. Mary and I were talking about your courage. Now, I don't know if it feels courageous to you, but from where we sit, it is courageous what you do.
I mean, I'll say this. I think I get too much credit for. There are times where I do feel like, here we go. Come on, Kamau. But I think I get too much credit for that. For the most part, I'm just a super curious person. And so for me, it's like my curiosity overwhelms my common sense. I would say that. So there are things where I've done. My wife is very aware of this. Like I'll get halfway through a project and be like, why did I do this? And she'd be like, I told you, this is what you do. This is like, I get so far in that I sort of need to finish it. So like but my curiosity overwhelms my common sense. So like famously on the first episode of United Shades, I went to the Ku Klux Klan. There's a certain amount of courage in that, but then I also try to keep some perspective of like, I chose to do this. So it's not like the number of people who run into the Klan in this country when they don't choose to, like that's real courage to deal with that situation.
Yeah.
I'm with the camera crew. Like, so I sort of try to keep some perspective. My current running joke is every time I feel like I'm being overwhelmed by my life choices, the ghost of Harriet Tubman shows up like, oh, is this hard? Oh, is it hard to direct and to be in television? That's hard.
Yeah.
So I try to, I think I'm pretty good at keeping perspective. Certainly I have an ego. Certainly I wouldn't be in this business without an ego. But I think even the fact that like I didn't sort of make it, whatever that is, until I was a little bit older, I'm more connected to the person before I made it than the person who has quote unquote made it. So yeah, I'm more like
that person who
was like, didn't know that he would ever have a career.
Right.
Who was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I tell these jokes. Sometimes they work. Sometimes they don't. I want to try to make it. I want to try to make an impact, but I don't know how to do it. Like that guy. I'm more
and
that
when
guy.
Did that I want to make an impact hit you?
It's funny because I'm the Saturday Night Live generation. So Saturday Night Live has been here not my whole life, but most of my life. I've been saying it hasn't been funny since the first cast. Like I'm the guy who's like, ever since Lorraine Newman left, it just hasn't been the same. So I'm like, I would have been like, I want to be. Like when Eddie Murphy's on Saturday Night Live, I remember that. And he looked to be the same age as me. So that was what I wanted to do. I want to be on Saturday Night Live. At the same time, my mom is like, she was born in Indiana in 1937, went through the entire civil rights movement. So when I'm born in the early 70s, that's like America's having like a what do we do now moment. And so I'm hearing all these conversations. I'm an only child. My mom takes me everywhere. So I hear all these grown-up conversations. So there's always conversations about racism and the movement and how do we do this and da-da-da and can we achieve our way out of it? And I'm just a kid who likes comedy, and comic books. And so I just would have thought I was going to become a comedian, and whatever my mom and all that was talking about was over here. But as I got older, it's like I just got, whatever I was doing in comedy kept pulling me back to the stuff that was like in my house, So it didn't, I didn't really like, I would have not told you when I was a kid, I would have been this kind of comedian. I would not have thought I'd been some, whatever this is. And also I think there wasn't this kind of comedian in the same way when I was a kid. I couldn't have been like, I hope to become a comedian, get a TV show on CNN. Like that's not so the world opened up and I just had more opportunities. But yeah, I just wanted to be funny. I wanted to be like my comedy heroes,
Do you still consider yourself comedian first?
I would say that's my like operating system. So even if, no matter what I'm doing, the operating system is like based on like being a comedian. Well, let me tell you about comedy acting and comedy, Ted. No, but it's about like building connections.
Different.
Yeah.
I work with writers who are really talented and funny. You're up there on your own, which is part of that courage thing.
Well, that's the thing. I think it is about like building connection with people. So if you're a comic and you go on stage in front of an audience, you have to build connection. So the fact that like no matter whatever interview I'm in or talking to somebody, I'm always trying to build connection with them. And humor is a great way to build connection. It can relieve tension. It can let people sort of like have a moment of rest in the middle of a hard story. So yeah, I think my operating system is that of a comedian. And I'm always thinking about jokes and ways to like make people laugh because it just sort of lubricates the conversation. Right. So yeah, even though I started doing stand-up again, I haven't done stand-up like 5 years and I started doing it again this year because I feel like I want to be a comedian again, but we'll see.
Okay, so you bump into a lot of you in difficult situations. You bump in purposefully into people who don't think like you or seem unreasonable, unapproachable, whatever. Mm-hmm. What do you do with your anger? Is there? There's got to be.
There's a ton of anger. I'm laughing because there's a ton of anger. No, it's funny. I think I think one of the reasons that some people become comedians is to deal with their anger or their disappointment or their sadness or their shame. And so certainly there's a tremendous well of like, sort of like, I don't even know, melancholy that's inside of me that I use comedy to get out of. But when I'm in the moment with those people, I'm very actively aware that like this conversation isn't really about me and you. It's about me giving you the space to talk so the people over here can see what's happening. So it's not about me debating you. Which people think it is. It's about me drawing you out so that the audience watching can hear things they weren't going to hear. So it is very rare that I would be in a conversation and get angry with somebody.
I did see in that first the KKK episode. Now this is just purely my impression, but there was one moment when the Grand Whoop-de-Doo said something just just out and out. Horrible.
Yeah.
And this is me putting myself into your shoes. There was such a sadness, and there was a moment of just your game face just dropped for a second, but it wasn't anger and fuck you. No. It was this deep sadness.
That episode. There was a deep sense of like, this is really what it is.
Yeah.
This is really what it is. And also, like, I don't spend a lot of time with the Klan, so to see it that close up, it's more like, oh, man. Like, it is like
I was hoping for something.
Oh, man. I was hoping you had a good argument. I was hoping maybe I'd walk and be like, you've made some good points. I was hoping that there was something I could hang my hat on and be like, well, okay, I don't agree, but no, there was no, it was just like, you're really that guy. It's interesting in that episode, one of the things that I asked to do, which we did do, was there was a kid in that episode, if you remember, and the family signed off. He was like the grandson of the Grand Whoop-de-Doo.
Right.
And the family signed off so that we could put his face in it. And I was like, we're blurring that kid's face. Like I just did, because I was like, I don't know what that kid's going to grow up into.
Right.
I feel bad for this kid, even if his family doesn't. So I do have empathy for people, even those who don't have empathy for me a lot of times.
Where do you think that came from? Family, kid, mother, father? Do I hear father in there, or is it mother? Mostly?
Mother. I mean, no. I grew up with my mom mostly. My dad my mom lived all over the states. My dad spent his time in Mobile, Alabama. He's from Mobile, Alabama. I would see him every summer. So my dad was in my life. I lived there for 2.5 years when I was in 8th grade in high school, freshman year of high school. But I definitely was like raised by my mom. I am a mama's boy.
Right.
Much to my dad's chagrin. He just can't be too mad because he was actually a mama's boy too. But so even though he would wish I wasn't, it was like, well.
It's really the only way to go.
It's what are you going to do? Not be a mama's boy? Yeah. So where did the empathy come from? I actually think that a lot of it came from because I was with my mom and I moved around a lot. And so I sort of understood very early on that there were lots of different types of people out here. And I think traveling, and I remember talking to Bourdain about this when I was on his show, it's really a way to make you think, oh, the world's bigger than me.
Yeah.
Oh, and people think you have to travel out of the country. I don't think, in America, if you just travel around America, because we're like 50 different countries, the world's bigger than me. And the way I do things is not the way everybody does things. I think it really was like seeing lots of different people in lots of different situations from a very early age. I just learned that like the world was not all about me, you know?
Right.
And so, which is what I try to do.
Wait, can you say that again slower?
Yes, sure.
Wait, it's not?
Exactly. Yeah, the world is not all of it. And I think if you don't move around a lot, if you're sort of stuck in a routine, and not everybody has the privilege of traveling, you sort of just start to think your version of reality is the version of reality. Even if you don't like your reality, you think this is the way it is. And then when you hear about something over here, you're like, well, that's wrong because that's not what I'm doing. But the more you travel around, the more you start to realize that like everybody's on their own separate track and everybody's doing the best they can. Even the people you don't agree with generally are doing the best they can.
Right.
And so...
And CNN doesn't always have it right.
CNN doesn't always have it right, which is their new slogan. CNN, we don't always got it right. Yeah. And that there are certain things that I'm not going to... Like certain things that like with the... Like when I was with those Klan members, I could see like, I don't agree with any of your race things you say, any of the racism, but I also see a bunch of people who live in an economically deprived area who don't have access to good jobs, good education, good city services, good social services, and somebody has weaponized that into the Klan.
That's where the word evil is on the tip of my tongue.
Yes.
Not the people who live in hard times, not the people who may look at the West Coast, East Coast and go, well, that's stupid.
Yeah.
I get up at 4 and work a farm and da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
But the people who then make use of that fear, anger,
who step into that hole that these people haven't filled and fill it with evil. Yeah. So I'm not down with the evil, but I am down with the fact that like I do wish you had a better job so you just had less time to be so racist. I do wish you had I wish your community was better so that you could have a better life, because I think it would sort of lighten up your political perspective, you know.
Yeah.
And also living in the Bay Area, when I moved to the Bay Area when I was 24, and just the Bay still, but maybe not as much as it used to because it's so expensive now. But like the Bay is there's just so many different types of people stumbling across each other. And if you take advantage of being in those positions, you just can't help but be like, wow, I've never seen that before. Okay, all right. Guess that's how the world is. It just like, it opened up my perspective a lot. And I got to learn from that point that there were many times I'd be in rooms of people having conversations that had nothing to do with me. And the best thing I could do was shut up and listen. So living in the Bay Area, Oakland, Berkeley, San Francisco, I just was always around. I was hanging out with comedians. My girlfriend, now wife, was a modern dancer, and we'd go to these performance art shows where people are like, you know, like literally the things you see in sketch comedy about performance art, you know, like blood and my head's a television and whatever. And then I would hang out with like my friends who were like, you know, my East Bay lesbian friends, and they'd be talking about the patriarchy, and I'd be like, I have an opinion about, oh, no, you're right, I should just listen. You're right, I should just probably sit this one out. And just hanging out with lots of different types of people and just learning that like these things, we can have disagreements, but we don't have to pull in opposite directions.
Right.
Really helped a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I grew up, my father was an archaeologist, anthropologist. He was the director of a museum in Flagstaff, Arizona. And my best friends were Hopi Navajo kids and ranchers, sons and daughters. And we lived outside of town. So I would go to the Hopi pueblos and watch where they had lived. The Hopi never went to war with the United States, so they are still in the villages that they've been in for 1,000 years. And you'd see them celebrate their gods in the dirt plazas, you know. Every weekend I'd go up and play. And I wasn't conscious or educated or, you know, you could read a book about the Hopi and probably know more than I do factually. But in my heart, I got Hopi. Then I'd go back on Sunday to the Episcopal Church, and it was all the same.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents I don't think they encouraged it. They just lived that, that it is all the same. We all worship differently. We're all different colors and shades and cultures. And it wasn't even taught. It just kind of was how I grew up. So then when you go out into the real world and you bump into people, it feels to me like, and this is a cynical thing to say, that all right, sorry, I'm rambling. In race, I probably should be quiet and sit and talk, listen to other people talk. But I can do the same conversation with the environment, with social justice, with people who refuse to believe in climate change. And I've gotten to the point where I'm going, I don't think I should be wasting my time trying to convince somebody. I don't mean chalk them off as whatever, but don't get into the conversation to convince them that they're wrong. Because I don't know that I ever could, if they're that, entrenched. But all right, let's not talk about climate change, not even say those words, but let's talk about your neighborhood that just had 400 more tornadoes rip through it, or more floods, or more drought, or more. What do we do? How can I help you figure out how to not suffer quite so much by what's happening with our weather?
Sure.
Is there I don't know if there's a correlation.
No. When you say that, I think about the fact that, one, I think there's a time in our lives where we are in the debate, when we're like, I need to debate. And I think a lot of that is with youth. Like, I just learned this thing and I want to tell you about this thing. And if you don't know, and I think thank God there's new young people every day to do that.
Right.
So and there's a time in our life where we're like, that's not my role anymore. My role, I said this, my role is not to fight in the comments anymore. That's not my role anymore. And my role is to really know what is my best use of my time and my energy, and just put it there. And give myself some grace around not fighting with people in the comments anymore. Because you feel like I should probably fight with that person who said that ignorant thing. And you just start to realize, I'm not that guy anymore.
Right.
Somebody is that person, and they can go fight in the comments. So I think there is a connection. I think the other thing I would say about what you said is, when you say talking about race, I should keep my mouth shut. I think that might be true unless you're with a group of white people.
Yes.
Then you need to be, because then you're the black guy.
Yeah.
Because you know something that maybe a lot of white people don't know.
Yeah.
So that's what I would do with my friends. I would hear my East Bay lesbian friends having all these conversations about patriarchy and male privilege and da-da-da, and I would be quiet, and then I'd be in a conversation later with some of my male friends. They'd be like, well, actually, then I'm that asshole. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I think that's what we should learn is, in conversations we have where we don't know anything, listen. But if you don't take that knowledge somewhere else, then you've wasted that time. Yeah, it's not good. I'm glad I know that now. No, it's not about that. So I think you're doing the right thing. I think that.
But then here's what happens to my brain. Oh, you have some cowardice working here. You're not being courageous. You're not. But I have to admit, I had a moment where I could have done something like we're talking about, and I realized I'm not Jane Fonda.
Exactly. Yes.
At 86, she's leaping onto the ramparts, and tearing down the walls of ignorance. And I'm not her.
No, you're not.
And I have to, with humility, accept that.
I like the humility. I'm humble enough to say I'm not Jane Fonda. That's a good thing. It's a big moment for you, Ted. I'm glad we got to a breakthrough.
Oh, she is one of my heroes,
No,
man.
Jane Fonda's great.
Unbelievable.
But I think that we also have to understand, I see friends of mine who are really good at engaging people in debate. And people would sometimes get mad at me with United Shades on my CNN show that I wasn't yelling at the neo-Nazi. And I was like, that's not, and I'd be like, should I be doing that? But I was like, that's not my role here. I don't think that's my job skill. I'm not the debater. I'm more the listener and the poking holes in the thing. Are you sure? And also I'm the person who's there to draw you out again so other people could hear. For example, if I got when I go back to Oakland on Saturday, if I get on my Southwest flight and a Klansman is sitting down next to me, I'm not going to talk to that guy because there's no TV cameras around. Right. I'm not trying to have that conversation all the time. But if there's a productive way to have it, if it's going to be for somebody else, if it's going to be a way we can take this conversation and show it to people, then I'm that guy. And I think that we get caught up in I try not to get caught up in what I think I'm supposed to be doing. Well, if I was like, and really get zeroed in on what am I actually supposed to be doing?
And perhaps have some degree of effectiveness.
Yes. Yeah. Where am I, we have limited resources, especially the older we get. What's the best use of my resources?
Right.
And also, I'll sometimes give myself some grace, like, come out, don't forget, you still have 3 daughters who are like 13, 6, and 9. Like, they need some of your time too. So you can't be like out fighting in the comments all the time.
Are you home a lot, or is your job just...
I mean, they think I'm gone all the time. I don't.
Well, let's check that out.
Coming here, I was like, I got to go and I said an hour, but I was, it's more than an hour. But I was like, I'll be back in an hour or so. And my 6-year-old was just like, no. And I'm like, and so there is a narrative in my house that I'm always gone. I am gone a lot, but I'm not gone as much as but it means that I can't even take a walk around the block sometimes.
Right.
You're leaving again. So, and I respect it, and I don't want them to feel that way. So yeah, I do travel a lot, but it also means that if I come to LA, I'll go up and back in a day sometimes if I can just so I can be home, Yeah.
So you do get enough time more. I mean, not to please everybody, but you do take time?
Yeah. I mean, the problem with sort of my career too is that I'm basically like with CNN, people thought I worked there full time, but I was basically a seasonal employee. So there's never time that I feel like there's never an off time for me. So I'm always ideating on the next thing because I don't know if the last thing is really, it's just, you're always like, how it is. So it's a little bit like an actor's life, but it's even more so because I have to be the writer too, generally. I have to be the person who comes up with the idea.
Do you write everything down, or do you give it a treatment kind of, this is where I hope it goes? Or?
I'm a big external processor, so I will rah, rah, rah. And then because I'm a stand-up comic, eventually the things that stay in here, and then I will go write it down. And I'm also surrounded by, you just met Kelly, who's my production partner. Kelly's great at if I'm just she's great at let me just put this down on paper for you. So yeah, but I'm not a real longhand, long form writer. I'm a big Google Doc person. I'll jot them in a Google Doc.
One of the bullet points here on your catastrophizer. Now, is that did someone label you with that, or is that your own kind of...
It sounds like something I would have done. It sounds like my use of words. I'm trying to remember where that came from, but catastrophizer. I mean...
Which means, give it a definition.
It's
someone who doesn't veer away from catastrophe?
Someone who's always thinking through the worst case scenario and always preparing for the worst case scenario. Gotcha. So... yeah, but I'm not a pessimist, but I am how badly could this go?
Right.
What's the worst that could happen here? There's something that I find peace in that.
I kind of do that. And because it's is this the worst that could happen? Yes. Could you live with it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I can relax and go, it doesn't mean I'm planning for that or want that.
No, I don't want the worst.
Or attracting it.
That's why I'm not a pessimist. I want the best that can happen. But if I sit around and think about all the great things that'll come out of something, that's pretty much guaranteed to be bad news for me. If I sit around and think about all the worst things that can happen, then usually those things don't happen, and I can be pretty happy with the results. It didn't go as badly as it could have gone. Yeah. Good job, everybody. Good for me. I thought I was going to be banished from society after that project, but I still live in society.
Our little defense mechanism at night, we'll watch CNN or MSNBC or, our guys until we're just thoroughly depressed and fearful and, they've done their work.
Yes, if they've done their work. Because if you're not depressed, you're I don't think they did their job today.
So immediately change to HGTV and watch somebody build a house and there's a big problem that they overcome and then they're all very happy. That's how we go to sleep listening to that. What do you do? Because you do. I'm not trying to pick on myself here, but I do prefer to have joy and happiness and gratitude in my body, because not to be a goody two-shoes, but because my body feels better.
For sure.
That way.
For sure.
But then there's the real world. There are oil companies who want to drill a hole right next to the people who have no money to fight them, and their kids get cancer.
And on the other side, they want to build a highway on the other side of their house. And yeah.
Because they don't have enough money to fight them. In my community, we keep oil companies out because we have enough money.
To fight,
Boom. That's actually how I got involved, trying to keep Occidental Petroleum from digging slant drilling into the bay here in Santa Monica. And we won. But anyway, sorry, enough about me. Where was I going?
You were talking about...
Who's your co-producer again? Because she seems really good. Kelly, could Kelly come in and remind me where I was going?
She's watching right now. She probably couldn't tell you exactly. If you ask too many times, she will come in here. I mean, she will. She's very good at that.
How do you keep love, joy, hope in your heart when you're really way more than me bumping into hardcore issues that bring so much suffering and sadness? How do you do that?
So one, I do really enjoy joy and happiness and laughter. I think one of the reasons you become a comedian is because you want to be around that more. So I'm not a person who's like looking not to be around that. I do get weighed down by the issues of the day sometime. But one thing I do, and this is something it's important for me with my kids, is before they go to sleep at night, if I'm putting them to bed, I will ask them, tell me 3 things you're grateful for from today.
That's great.
And it's the thing we've been doing for like their whole lives. And it's just a way, ostensibly for them, but it's for me to like practice like every day something good is happening. Every day something happens where you're like, whew, that was pretty lucky. Oh, they just brought me this watermelon juice. I didn't even ask for this watermelon juice. So just like thinking about, it doesn't have to be big things, but ways. So I'm always trying to be aware of the little things that make life easier that happen that I'm not responsible for. And I'll say to my kids all the time, like, we didn't deserve that. We just got that. So we should be grateful for it. So I'm always thinking about that. I'd say that my news diet is opposite of yours. I do all my heavy, sad news in the morning.
Smart.
So by the end of the day, I'm in like YouTube videos watching like, somebody get their impacted ear drained or something. I'm done with news. I'm way off of that by the end of the day. So
I'm dying to know if you ever did see an impacted ear.
I've seen that. Yeah. I talked about this Conan. Like I'm a big YouTube person, and you can find, there's like YouTube videos of people in like other countries, like making it's like somebody runs like a food truck. And you'll watch them, and it shows them show up at like 3 a.m. and make all the food for the food truck. And you watch it for like an hour, and it's just somebody making like breakfast burritos.
Yeah.
And there's no talking, there's no words. You just watch, and you sit there like, look at them getting that job done.
Yeah.
Just making breakfast burritos.
It's HGTV.
It is. It's just like, it just slows you down.
Yeah.
It just calms you down. So I'm a big fan of like random YouTube videos where like people cooking food or people build, like there's one where this guy's like, look how rusty this knife is. I'm gonna clean it up. You just watch a guy clean up a rusty knife for 20 minutes.
I at 76 am just discovering YouTube, and my kids will look at me when I go, I don't know how to put this thing together, and they go, YouTube.
No, everything is
literally everything is.
Yep, everything. Yeah. How do I put this together? You can just say this, and your phone will be like, I know exactly what you're talking about. You don't have to say what it is. No, I told Conan, I taught my daughter how to ride a bike based on a YouTube video. I was like, how to teach a kid to ride a bike quickly, and YouTube's like, here you go. So I'm a big fan of like, like I said, I was an only child. By nature, I think that makes you more curious because you have more time with your thoughts, and so I'm a big like following a rabbit hole to its illogical conclusion. It's just that generally that work doesn't there's lots of things I'm interested in. I just, when it's time to do the work of my career, those things tend to not be the ways generally how I do the work of my career. And the other thing I do is when you ask like, how do you keep joy in your life? I do try to keep perspective of like, I made these choices. Like nobody assigned me this career. It's not like I was like, man, I was so close to getting assigned Kevin Hart. Like that didn't, So if I'm ever going to go, man, I wanted to be like on Saturday Night Live, like Eddie Murphy. I never auditioned for Saturday Night Live. Yeah. I was never in that track. So I have to be like, relax. You were at CNN, so I try to keep perspective because it can be easy to be frustrated. I'm also like, spend a lot of time in therapy, and like I spend, and it's time.
Have you been in therapy from a young age?
Oh yeah, my mom was like a Shirley MacLaine person back in the day. So I've been in therapy since high school. Like she was, you know what I mean? But like when Shirley MacLaine was like past lives. And
I was right there.
Yeah, no. So I was right there by default because I was my mom's kid. So I haven't been in therapy consistently since I was a teenager, but I have been in therapy.
One of the world's greatest luxuries.
Yeah, no, it's a super and yeah, I feel like it should be, I feel like if we're going to start to talk about reparations, I think Black people getting free therapy would be a great place to start. It's not the end of it. I would like cash, but also that would be a great way to start. It'd be a great place to start.
One of my go-tos, which sounds so, sorry, I just out of the corner of my eye saw Nick signal that my hands in my face. This is how I talk to people. This is me on television. Ted, take your hand. Wait, I don't want.
They call that the Ted Danson. Yeah. Everybody do the Ted Danson. I just so can.
My go-to is, and then you die.
Oh,
Ted.
Yeah.
So it's not like if you save the ocean single-handedly that you get an immortality card, or if you solve this problem or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
No, and then you die. So give it your best shot.
Give it your best shot.
Stay happy and joyful and do as much as you can. There was a great phrase in somewhere in The Good Place. Just try to do better every day.
Yeah. I mean, that's that just try. Yeah. I do. I mean, so yeah, there's my two versions of Ted Danson are the Cheers, which was like taught me about comedy and taught me about good times. And then The Good Place, which really was like, how did this show get on television?
I know.
How did this show get on? And it's still on and people are watching it. Yeah.
And can you imagine the pitch to NBC?
I can't. I mean, so thank you for all that. But I do think part of that show, which is what I was so appreciated, was just the fact of like, life is good. I do accept life is going to be hard.
Yeah.
Nobody's promised. Most of us aren't promised anything, and you have to do the best with what you can. And I'm also very aware that like wherever my career is at, I've attained a level of privilege that I should appreciate and then use. And sometimes use means like try to make sure you're helping other people who don't have this level of privilege. And I try to engage in that a lot. And the other part of it is like, your kids want to go to Universal. Email your manager and see if you can get free tickets to Universal.
Yeah.
See if you're famous enough to get free tickets. And Universal said, we'll give you some tickets, put post on Instagram. Fine, Universal. So
by the way, I got charged up the wazoo for Universal. I hadn't thought of that.
You should have. I mean, I'm trying to like, I forget about the good side sometimes because like I said, I live in Oakland, so I'm not in. But even in Oakland, like people are like, hey, come out. People feel like they know me because I've been there for a long time. And sometimes you get a free cup of coffee and you're like, this is good living. You know what I mean? So I do try to remember that like I did fight for this career, whatever it is. I do feel better when I am engaged in the big conversations of the country than if I'm not. And I don't begrudge other comedians who are not. I think there's all kinds of ways to live this life. But for me, I feel like if I'm not actively engaged in one of those big conversations, then I'm kind of wasting my skill because that's where my skill is at.
Yeah.
So, but I would, like I saw the trailer for Beverly Hills Cop 4 and I was like,
oh, I didn't know this.
Yeah. I was like, 13-year-old me is pretty mad at me right now that I'm not in Beverly Hills Cop 4. 13-year-old me doesn't want to hear about any of this other stuff.
Maybe you didn't ask. All you had to do was ask.
I know. 13-year-old me is like, you didn't even audition? Like, you didn't even, I just would have thought I would have been in Beverly Hills Cop 4. I just would have assumed if you'd said you will be a somewhat famous comedian by the year 2024 and Beverly Hills Cop 4 is coming out, I'd be like, well, clearly I'll be in Beverly Hills Cop 4. So it's funny. I have to understand that, like, that's not the path you're on.
Do you notice yet the water you swim in? Meaning, when people see you on the street?
Oh, yeah.
Do you notice the expression on their face?
I can see people seeing me before they realize I see them seeing me. I'm sure you have this too, where you can see somebody be like, ah!
Yeah.
And you're not even looking, or I can feel it.
Yeah.
And then you sort of have to feel like, how do I engage with this?
Yeah.
Generally, I will engage with it because, again, I'm more connected to the guy who wasn't famous, whatever fame. I feel like sitting across from you, it's funny to call this famous. But anyway, known before I was known than the guy who is known. So I will, my kids are sort of like, come on, Dad, we got to go. But I'm generally want to engage with those people.
But when I walk around, people smile at me because they're remembering a funny joke our moment that I was part of.
Or several.
Or near, even.
Yeah.
I learned early on at Cheers, you don't have to have the joke. Just be in the two shot with the joke. And you'll get all the credit in the world.
Yeah. Just be around the laughter.
Yeah, exactly. But they smile, and that's an amazing water to swim in. I'm so blessed to walk around with that. And I'm just wondering what you feel you're swimming in.
I noticed it used to be, there was like eras where it was like every time I ran into somebody, be like, oh man, you're Kamau Bell. I loved it. I'd be like, don't say Klan, don't say Klan, don't say that episode with the Klan. And I was like, oh man, I've done a lot of things, but I'm the Klan guy.
Yeah.
At some point, not that I don't hear about it anymore, it shifted to thank you for your work.
Yeah.
Which I actually appreciate more because it means there's like a body of work that they've engaged with. Yeah. It's not just the fact that the crazy guy went and talked to the KKK. And I really appreciate, and so it's very much like people will sort of say, they'll look me in the eye, they'll shake my hand, they'll lean in, like, thank you. Like, it's a very sort of like, and so I really appreciate that because it's hard to know where it's landing all the time. And then the thing I get, which is like, thank you for your work. You need to do a story, and they start telling me what I need to do. Just like...
Because you can make it better.
Yeah, I can make, and sometimes it's about like, I think you need like a city councilman. I'm not that, like, we need help building this thing, and there's not in the media. And it's like, I think you've confused. I'm not that guy, but yeah, so I'll get that a lot. Like, you need to do a story about blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I don't even have a job right now, but thank you for that.
You said your mom's alive, right?
Yes, very much so. Yeah.
She must be tickled pink. Come on, because
she loves this moment. She has this moment a lot. She'll be around people, and and this especially happens in the Bay Area. Oh, what do you do? I do this. I'm here. My granddaughters live nearby. My son, and then at some point, like, I'll come up and be like, "Hey, Mom." They're like, "Wait, why didn't you tell me?" And she just like, you didn't tell me that was your son? Yeah. So yeah, she loves, and like I said, it was just the two of us. My mom was my best friend when I was a kid. So she's really living her best life.
I don't even mean the fame. I mean, you are, sorry if I'm
Ted Danson, don't apologize to me again.
Okay, all right.
If you apologize again, I'm walking out.
All right,
there's too much.
All right, good note.
Yeah,
good note. Seriously. But you're going to feel that way. Your kindness. You have a kind face. You walk in and there's kindness in the room. That's what I meant about your mom. Must be really kind of proud of who she raised.
Yeah, yes, 100%. Yes, I think
that's cool.
My mom always had great belief in me. She thought you'll figure something out. But to see what has happened and to see how, yes, she's very like proud of the type of person that I am. And the type of dad that I am, too. I think it's...
I was about to say, do you see yourself passing that? I love that. You'll figure it out.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful thing to pass on to your kids.
For sure. Yeah. I think, I tell that to my kids all the time. It's very clear, like, this is about your journey. So if my teacher said, I'm not worried about that. Let's figure this out. We're not, I don't want you to think that I'm ever worried about what your teacher said, So it's about what do you need? So it's really important to me that my kids, my mom was clearly like my friend. Now, she was my friend who paid the rent, so I had to respect her, but she was my friend, so I could tell her anything. And I knew if I said, Mom, I need help with this, she was going to be there. And it's very, with my kids, it's very important to me that they feel like if I call my dad into a situation, he's got my back.
Right.
Yeah.
God, I'm checking myself every time you say something. Did I do that? Am I doing it?
You did it.
Am I coming? Yes.
You're not. I mean, you're Ted. Be the best Ted Danson you can be. It's turned out pretty well.
Are you church?
As a kid, I was. I'm not.
What were you, if I may? Was it Alabama church or?
It was a little both. So it was like Northern church with my mom, and then Methodist church with my mom, and then AME church with in the South, of course.
Much more fun.
Yeah, a lot more fun. Yeah, a lot more. Yeah, a lot better choir.
Southern church is going to be scary as shit or joyfully astounding.
I mean, my grandmother's church was the kind of church where every week a big black woman would catch the Holy Spirit and pass out and have to be carried out of the church every week.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was the same woman, but every week there was a woman who would catch the Holy Spirit in the middle of the sermon and have to be carried out into the next room.
And how old were you when you were watching that?
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you know,
Yeah.
like you just sort of like, whoa, whoa, every week. It's like, it was like very fire and brimstone, you know, basement where they served fish after funerals. You know, it was very like, it was, I'm really happy with the fact that, because, you know, most of all Black people in this country who could trace their lineage back to time of enslavement, we came through the South. But a lot of us are disconnected from it, so we don't spend time in the South. I'm really, as much as it annoyed me when I was a kid, I'm really happy that I've spent so much time in the South, so I know how to speak Southern. I know how to be in the South. And I'm not, it's again, like we said earlier, I have empathy for the South in a way that like people who don't go to the South sort of just condescend to the South.
Yeah, from states that are far worse.
Yes.
I mean, you Little Rock, Arkansas, Mary's from North Little Rock.
Mm-hmm.
She has... The north part's important because that was called Dogtown. She was on the wrong side of the tracks, but she's very proud of. But because of the high school there in the 50s? No, but 60 also. Yeah. You had to choose. There was no one was on the fence. You either bought it and went with it, or you at an early age went, nope.
Yeah.
That's wrong. You know, she was about to go to first grade or second grade or something when the first Black kids, integrated
the school. Yeah.
And people were throwing stuff at them and yelling, and she was watching TV, and she would not go to school the next day. She would burst into tears. I don't want to go to school. I don't want people to throw rocks at me or something. But you didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
And now when you go to Little Rock, it's not true all over Arkansas, obviously, but when you're in Little Rock, you're eating dinner with more Black people than you do in Westwood. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
You know, you are side by side, and they, you know.
There's an expression from the civil rights era or even before, and it's about Black people would say to each other, in the North, they don't care how high you get as long as you don't get too close. In the South, they don't care how close you get as long as you don't get too high. Yeah. So in the South, they're fine to eat dinner with you, but they don't want a Black doctor.
Yeah.
In the North, you can be a Black doctor, but don't come over to my house.
It's a version of you. All right, you can be my president, but I'll be goddamned if I'll do what you tell me. You know?
Exactly. Yeah. So it's very much like and my daughters have spent time in the South, especially my oldest daughters, and I'm really happy that they will have had that experience, so that they don't feel like cut off or intimidated by the South in the way that a lot of people do. Yeah.
I know it's silly that I was sitting there when you came in reading your workbook.
I had not prepared myself for you to have a copy of my book.
But I think it's brilliant.
Brilliant. I will take the thank you or the compliments for the whole team of people that put that together. Especially, I got to mention Kate Schatz, who's my co-author, who we really collaborate.
Prominent. I mean, it's a dialogue with you guys
for sure.
But what's great is it doesn't matter where you are on the spectrum. If you're white, you are on the spectrum.
Yeah, it will meet you where you're at. Yeah, that's what we really wanted to make the book
and push you.
Yeah,
in a gentle, kind way.
Yeah.
So far, I haven't gotten to the end.
No, it stays. I mean, I feel like I always thought of that book like a book that tells you how to do sit-ups. It's not going to help you unless you do the sit-ups.
Yeah.
But also, if you already have good abs, you sort of just do more of the sit-ups. But if you don't, you can start at a low. You know what I mean? So it's like I really feel like it meets people where they're at, and sort of like by making it interactive. We just found during 2020, after George Floyd's murder, there was just a lot of those books, a lot of the anti-racist books went to the top of the bestseller list. And a lot of those are great books, but they're tomes.
Yeah.
They're really sort of analytical. And we felt like, but do people know what to do next?
Yes.
Like after you read those books, do you know how to like enact what it taught you in the world?
Yeah.
And coming from a background in the community of activism, I need white people to do things. Like, I don't need people to know. I don't need you to, if it's between knowing something or doing something, I'd rather you do something than just, I know it, you know?
Yeah. All right, I'm a racist. No, you're a racist. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. No, But even if you solve that little conversation, the next thing is, what are you going to do?
There's still a public school across town that's mostly Black that doesn't have enough resources.
Yeah.
Can you help them? Yeah. Is there some way you can help them? You know, so there's
what
still...
is the name of the, the foundation?
Didn't I just tell him not to apologize?
No, I didn't apologize to you. I was apologizing to Nick.
Okay,
because
all right. Okay, I'll write that one down. That's one Nick apology. But you only get two to Nick.
What is the name of the, not foundation, but
organization, nonprofit, Donors Choose.
Donors Choose.
Donors
Tell me
Choose.
about that a little bit.
So Donors Choose is an organization that helps teachers and classrooms raise money for whatever their resources they need in their classroom. It could be books, like we need books so the kids can read. It can be like hygiene supplies, because some kids don't have that stuff at home. So it could be a trip to DC, or it could be musical instruments. But the way it is set up is that you can just put in a zip code. So put in your zip code and it'll tell you all the schools in your area and what they need. And it's for public schools.
Oh, that is brilliant.
So yeah, it's really great because it makes you, to me, it's like a video game that helps people because you feel fun. Also some teachers need $5,000. Some teacher needs $40. So it's really like you can help in whatever way you can.
It's like the micro grants. You can,
micro loans. Yeah.
You can do all over the world.
And you can find a teacher who's like, oh, they need a tuba, but they're $40 away from completing the tuba. I'm gonna put them over the top. And then if you want, the teacher will have the kids send you thank you cards and things. And so I think right now, especially right now, people are like, how do I help? What can I do? And I think sometimes what can I do is a check, but you're like, I'm with the ACLU, but like you send the ACLU a check, it just sort of like goes.
And you tend to wash your hands, perhaps.
Yeah. You just sort of like, okay, I did that.
Yeah, I gave.
But this, it's like, literally, I know that the thing I'm doing is going to impact this.
Which will hook you to keep doing it. Tell me the name again.
Donors Choose. So like donor, like someone who donates something.
.org.
Yeah. And it's just, I find like, especially if you're having if you're like reading an article about how bad America is, you need a little dopamine rush to feel better.
Yeah.
Just help a teacher on Donors Choose. You'll be like, okay, I helped a little bit. Yeah. I crawled out of the hole.
I don't know if everyone knows, they must, that most schools, the teachers are taking out of their meager paycheck to deliver books to their children.
It's the percentage is it's well over 50% of teachers who go into their own pockets to get this to support the students. Right. Like they can't not do it because they want the kids to have what they need. I mean, it could be pencils, it could be erasers, it could be crayons, and teachers would rather go into their own pockets generally than have the kids go without. So this is a way to like let the teachers keep whatever meager income they're making, and to get the kids something extra, because it's also about like public school can mean a lot depending upon your community and your zip code. Some public schools basically function like private schools, and some public schools don't have enough for the kids to like have the supplies they need. And so this is to help until our government closes that gap. This is what we have to do.
It's really brilliant. I'm sitting here thinking about, well, you said it. You can write a check, but the tendency is to wash your hands.
Yeah.
With this, you're going to get engaged.
Yes, and if you stay engaged, you'll hear from the teachers and the kids, and you can give to whatever school you went to when you were a kid, or whatever schools in your neighborhood that you walk past every day and don't know what's going. So it's not even about like whether or not you have kids in the school district. I think it's more important for people who don't have kids in school right now to think like, you want those kids in all those schools to be as smart and prepared for the world as possible, because they're going to be adults someday and you're going to run into them.
Yeah.
so you want all the kids
them to be as smart as they possibly can be.
Helping those kids is a selfish act. I think we think of this stuff as being some sort of like, I'm a good person. So no. I want you to be smart and to be prepared and to be well fed, because I'll be running into a happier adult.
Yeah. I know greed is not going to go away, but there's smart greed there's stupid greed that'll come back and bite you in the ass.
Yeah, no, this is the kind of greed that's like, I want everybody to have everything they need, because then that means I have everything I need.
Yeah.
I think of it that way. Yeah.
You don't want to walk around with a bunch of people pissed off.
No, you don't want to walk with a bunch of uneducated, hungry people. Like that's not a good society.
With each one with 2 or 3 guns.
Yeah. Who never learned which is the good end, which is the bad end. So yeah, like I think it's important for me. This is where a lot of the activism comes from. It's like, actually, just selfishly, I want a better community. I want a better world. You know. And when I think about my mom, like I think about my mom's parents, the racism they suffered is pretty much unimaginable to me.
Right.
And then when my mom tells stories, sometimes I'm like, that is almost unimaginable to me. I hope, and I think of it as a baton. So my grandparents handed my mom the baton. It was lighter than when they got it, because their parents were enslaved, you know? And then you go another generation, my mom handed it to me. It was way lighter than when she got it. But now I think about my 13-year-old daughter, and I'm like, when I hand it to you, is the baton going to be heavier or lighter?
Oh, yeah.
Because America's in a special place right now. And that baton might get heavier because of what we're about to go through.
Yeah.
So it's my job to do everything I can to make sure, I at least hope the baton weighs the same. So that's where I sort of am at now. Like, it's really important to me to think about, like, because whatever my kids do, I think I have done the same job my mom did, where it's like my oldest daughter wants to be a singer and is a singer. She's still going to be engaged in this work somehow because that's what we do.
Batons. You're not a baby boomer, right?
No.
I'm a baby boomer. And baby boomers don't pass the baton. They just keep holding on.
They hold the baton.
They drop it and don't realize it and
Where
keep
did I
running.
put the baton? And then I'm a Gen Xer. Hey, can we get the baton, baby boomer? Nah, I can't find it, but I don't want you to have it. No, I'm a proud Gen Xer who was called a slacker his whole generation, and now we're angry.
Wow. This is such a cool conversation for me. I really, really appreciate it.
It's been absolutely one of the thrills of my whole career to be able to sit across from you and have this conversation. When I got the invitation, I was like, I mean, everybody who was with me when I got it was like, yeah, of course you're doing that. Like, there was no, yeah. So
just so you know, I'm always in character. I went, why is he coming here? Why? Why
would you invited me?
Why did he come here?
Did you know you invited me? Did somebody else?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't know. Sometimes people it's like a blind podcast date. But no, I was super. I have been a fan from as long as I can remember. I've been invested in your career and I've followed you. I was so happy for every time I see you. It makes me happy. We're gonna have to FaceTime my mom after this is over. I hope you're okay with that.
Yes.
Okay, because
my God,
that's what
amazing.
I need to do. If I can't do that, then I take back everything I said. But no, it's and just to be clear, part of this is about the fact that, like, you are a white person in the world, white man in the world, who I see giving a shit and who I've seen give a shit. And I've seen make mistakes and bounce back from them. And I've seen, like,
thank you for that.
Yes. And I've seen you, like, use your privilege for good. And so even if I hadn't met you, I just felt good about you, and you're a talented performer. And it's just, and to think that whatever, even though I did not end up in Beverly Hills Cop 4, I still get to talk to you, makes me feel like I did the right thing. Somehow I haven't made too many mistakes in this career.
Gonna have to get up and hug you again.
Mission accomplished.